we're going to start by selecting the object that you want to cut and go to any of the component mode. Alright, because right now once you select the object and you right click, nothing is coming out, so you need to move to the component mode for you to see that. So if I go to point mode and I right click, then I have my modeling tools and all that. So this is what we're looking for, loop or path cuts. So I'll go to loop or path cuts. Then the first thing you're going to see is this bar at in the viewport. Then you come to your attribute manager, you have some of these options. So you have your path and the loop option and all that. So by default, this is what you're going to get, all these informations, and I've changed so many things while testing. So let's see what this does. So what happens is that once you move your mouse, after you've selected this tool, once you move your mouse to the object, what happens is that you're going to get a loop cut around your object. You're going to get all these, and basically it's just clicking to have that information. Then you've added geometry. Don't forget when you're using path or loop cut, you're actually adding geometry to some parts of the object so that you can have enough detail. So it's actually used when you don't have enough detail and you want to add more details to that. So, and let's look at some of the things. So this is basically what you do. You click to add geometry, and as you click, notice that what you've added is having this yellow color, and while you're having this, it means it's still in editable mode. You can still modify these objects, but as soon as you click outside or you escape, then there's nothing you can do to it anymore. So let's see what if I click here now, and while this thing is still yellow, I can move my mouse on that line, any part of the line, then I can move and drag to wherever I please and I choose to be. So if this is what I want, I can just release my hand here. But if I have a defined distance I want from it, or the percentage that I want from it, what I'm going to do is just come to this place, double click here, change the value that I want. So let's assume I want to cut it at exactly 60%. So I'm just going to change it to 60, press enter. Then the cut is going to be at exactly 60%. Hope that makes sense. Alright, then this icon will allow you move it to the midpoint, which is 50%. So if I click on this, it goes to midpoint of the line. So it's basically I'm having this line from this point to this other point. So I'm creating a cut in the middle. If I want to create it maybe 20% of the line, so double click here, just like 20%, and it goes that. So this will take it back. Then this next icon will add more cuts. So let's assume my intention is not to have one cut, I want to have like 5 cuts. So I'll just use plus to add more cut, that is 2. And look at what is happening here, number of cuts. So you can either change it here or you change it here. Then this minus will take off the cut, so I can use this to get rid of the curve till I'm okay. So if you notice the cuts, you have some of these, you have this arrow bar, so you can actually move them independently. So if you don't want your cuts to have equal distance, you can just move them however you want it to be. So if I want this to be somewhere here, so I can double click. I want this to be at 10, I want this to be at 50, and I want this to be maybe at 80, for instance. I'll type 80, then I have that. So you can use that to distribute the cuts, and so it is not uniform if that is what you're going for. Alright, so let's look at other cuts. So if I'm to come here and to try and cut, see what happens. The cut is stopping at somewhere here, is not ending up onto this place, and the reason why I have that is because coming down here we have stop cut at pole. So this is a pole, Pole means a point which is connecting more than 5 points. 5 or more points, yeah, that is a pole. So if you notice all these points, they are more than 5, definitely. So these points here, connecting them is a pole. All of them are joining at a pole. So this part or this functionality is saying that whenever you get to a pole, stop at that. That is why you are seeing this object stopping here. But if I uncheck this and come here, it goes through. Can you see that it goes through and try to create a connection? So the loop cut is like you're having um, a cut round, having a loop of cut, so you can select all the loops. So that is what that does. Then you also have stop at end gun. Now the difference between end gun and poles is that, like I said, pole has more than 5 points upwards, and end gun is just you having 5 edges. So if you look at this polygon, this face of each of this polygon, you have how many points? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a polygon, this is a polygon, this is a polygon. But for you to have an end gun, what happens is that you would have a point. So let me create a point somewhere here. If I create a point here, now I now have more than 4 points here, meaning this is an end gun. It's more than 4. All right. So a pole is just like like I said, pole has different points connected to it. So you have the line connected to this. So basically, you're having like a triangle. But for an end gun, you have more than 4 points. So like how do I say this? Instead of you having a normal polygon which is made of 4 points, you're having 5 points, 6 points, 7 points, which are not connected together. So that is an end gun. All right. So if I go to my loop cut and I try to do a cut here, notice what happens. The loop cut stops here because it recognizes that the polygon, this surface here, is an end gun, not a polygon. But if I come here, can you see it goes through? This goes through. But as I get to this place, it stops because this surface is an end gun. So that is why it's stopping here. But if I don't want it to stop at an end gun, I can just uncheck, see what happens. It tries to find its way around. If I uncheck, it stops. See that. All right. Then you have symmetry. What symmetry does is that it creates this cut that we have here. It creates the curve cuts, but then have a kind of, as I'm cutting here, it cuts symmetrically along that line. So if I have my symmetry on, this is what happens. Can you see? So basically this is used when you intend having a cut, having 2 cuts, whereby the distance you want to have, the distance of cut from this top line is the same distance you want from this baseline. So you can use symmetry. So you know that everything is equal. So if I click, see it's still the same distance of cut that I have. That is what the symmetry does. Then this bi-directional cut is to, let me get rid of the symmetry, is to have the cuts on 2 sides. So if you click on this line, for instance, if you want this line to be your reference, if you move your mouse on the line, you have the cuts going up and down. That's the bidirectional working. But if I take off this bidirectional, what happens is that the side that I'm deflected to is what the cut is going to go through. If I come downwards, if I come down, it comes down. If I move up, it goes up. So it's just like on this edge, on this line here, on this edge, if my mouse is deflected to the top part of the edge, the cut goes off. If it's deflected downwards, the cut comes down. So that is what this bidirectional does. Alright, so let's look at some shortcuts. If I cut this, for instance, before I start cutting, if I hold down my shift key, I'm going to see some points. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to see some points, and what the point does is to hold on. My system, I think, is crashed. Wow. Alright, so I'm sorry, my system was acting up on me. So let's get back to it. KL will take me back to my loop cut, and I was talking about the shortcuts. Now if I move here and I hold down shift, see what happens. I'm having some points that I can snap to. So the number of division I'm having here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 divisions, subdivisions rather. So I can decide to choose any of these subdivisions and click. Now if I move close and I hold down shift, it furtherly subdivides this also into 7 points, and this functionality is seen by this quantize step. So if I change this quantize step to, let's say, 3 for instance, and I hold down my shift, see what happens. So I have 1, 2, 3 subdivisions. So you can, this is actually good, and you can decide to choose how you want your subdivision to be. Then what next? I think the next thing I'm going to use that on this cylinder. So if I select this cylindrical object and notice what is happening, this is not going through. So what I'm going to do is KL. Some of these things are okay. Let me try and do a cut somewhere here. Okay, so alright, so use loop wrench is actually limiting my cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this, and I am good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have some cuts somewhere here. I'm going to undo this, so I just want to use this to show you. So if I go to my polygon mode and I use my UL for loop selection, or I can just go to my model and select. If I go to my select, I'm going to see loop selection here and also UL. So I'm going to select this and also this, hold down shift to have multiple selection. So once I have this selection, then if I use my KL, I can select this restrict selection. So if I go to restrict selection, what will happen is that the cuts that I make is going to be restricted to this selection, even though I'm trying to make it, even though I'm seeing the line going through the unselected points. As soon as I click and escape, see what happens. All these edges here will not be there. So the cut is only restricted to this selection, to this selected point. So this is this is good where you want to have your loop cut on a particular selection and you don't want it to go through to other objects. So just thought you should know that is there. So I will get rid of this and I'm going to deselect, or I can just go to the point mode and continue working. So let's look at, I'm going to undo this now, and I could just work with this, no problem. So let's go to the last thing I'm going to talk about here. So, and that is here under your shaping. Right now, if I do a cut, I don't really have any shape. Just go through and follows the flow of the line. But as soon as I come to this place and click on this preserve curvature, see what happens. It gets my tension value from this value that I have there. So the curvature is going in. If I want it to bulge out, what I'm going to do is set this value higher than the middle value, then it bulges out. Alright, then you can add more points by clicking on this and this and this to have a more defined curve. So I just thought you should know this is here. For your loop cuts, you can use it to have more detail. And like I also said, if I want to have more defined information, I can just select any of these points and slide. So maybe I want this to be deflected more up, then I want to shrink this down so I have more information here, then possibly bring this also down. So I have all this, or I could just bring it here so I have this detailed information. So that is there. Then you can also, that is making use of this preserve shape. Then you can use profile also. And now the profile that I'm using right now is this curve. That is the profile that I'm using now, and this is going in. You can already see what we're having. If I go into it to see what we have, and we can use this curve to change the profile and also the depth. So this sets the depth of my profile. Alright, so this is the inner part of the cylinder, so the same as you shouldn't just. So I have this profile. If I start increasing this, I purposely am increasing this so you see what we get. So let's bring this down a little bit so you see the curve that we're going for. So this is the curve. It's making use of this curve to create this information. The reason why you didn't see it well was because the distance depth was too much, so you might need to bring this down a little bit for you to see this information. And I think this is, so let's start low so you see. You might not get a defined curve with low points, so for you to see that point you need to increase this value so you see your information. So let's assume I want to bring this down a little bit so you are already seeing this information here. And you might also need to have a point control. Click on this edge to have a point. So maybe this, you want this to go down and change this information, and you can see that's the start point. It goes down first before it comes up. Then maybe I want to define this more. I bring this up, shrink this down, you have that. So this is to let you know that you can actually create a curve, a profile curve for how you want your cut to go and still have more details to that. So this can be used for, let's say for instance you want to create all this disposable cup that goes in and out, and so hold down control, click more points, this goes up, maybe this comes up here, hold down control, add more points and bring it down. So what I'm trying to do is get this definition that I'm looking for. So maybe this goes up, this comes down, so I have more detail. So possibly, so I have this. Then once I'm done with this, I can, so let's assume this is where I'm heading for. Sorry. Wow. So you have that. So this is just there and have this information. If I hit NB, or sorry, NA, it brings this up and have this project giving you this. So I hope this was helpful. I could go on and on, and what happens here? I could go on and tweak this stuff. So I just thought I should open your eyes to this, so you could just play around and come up with something good with loop cuts. So like I said, don't forget, loop cut is used to add detail to your object when you feel you are not having enough detail. So you can add more detail to the object using that loop cut. So as soon as I bring this object into a subdivision surface, I start seeing the definition and all that. So I think I'm going to end it here, and I want to say thank you for sticking around to the end. And if you've learned something, please give me a thumbs up, like, and share. You don't know who might need this. Then if you're new to this channel, please do subscribe, as I am having a series of modeling tools, and this is my third in the series, and I hope to continue and touch most of the tools, if not all. So you would want to subscribe so you get notifications. Also hit the bell so that every time I drop my tutorial, you get to be the first set of people to get my tutorial. And I think I'm going to stop here, and do have a wonderful day. God bless you.